that collapsed. This was supposed to be a luxury success story. A celebrity-backed lifestyle brand launched with premium pricing, elegant visuals, and bold claims of exceptional quality. Everything about it was designed to signal refinement, exclusivity, and trust. Customers were told they weren't just buying products, they were buying an elevated lifestyle. But what arrived at their doorsteps told a very different story. Imagine paying luxury prices and opening your package with genuine excitement, only to realize something is fundamentally wrong. The moment that shocked customers the most became impossible to ignore. A high-end candle that arrived without a wick, not damaged, not broken, completely missing. A candle that could not be lit. At first, people assumed it was a rare manufacturing error, a one-off mistake that slipped through quality control. But that explanation collapsed quickly. Multiple customers, across different orders and different batches, reported receiving the same wickless candle. This wasn't an accident, it was a pattern. And that single product became the perfect symbol of what was happening. A brand that promised warmth, light, and luxury delivered something that couldn't even perform its most basic function. As more orders were delivered, similar issues began to surface. Labels were visibly crooked, jars were underfilled. Products that were marketed as carefully crafted felt rushed and careless. For a brand that emphasized precision and attention to detail, the contrast was striking. Customers weren't just disappointed, they felt misled. Luxury pricing creates an unspoken contract. When people pay more, they expect more. Not perfection for show, but care, consistency, and respect for the buyer. What customers received instead raised a troubling question. If these were the launch products, what did that say about everything else behind the brand? And this is where the story truly begins, because the deeper people looked, the worse it became. Replace the illusion. Once customers started sharing their experiences, the pattern became impossible to ignore. The problems weren't limited to one product or one shipment. They appeared across the entire product line. Jars arrived with labels applied so unevenly they looked rushed, as if quality checks were optional. Some containers weren't even filled properly, leaving buyers wondering why they were paying premium prices for products that looked incomplete. Then came the food items. Spreads that were advertised as rich and indulgent poured out of jars like liquid. Products meant to be thick and textured behaved more like syrup. Several customers reported jars that lacked proper vacuum seals, raising serious food safety concerns. At luxury pricing, this isn't a minor flaw, it's unacceptable. The tea products told another story. When opened, the aroma was strong and inviting, but once brewed, the flavor disappeared almost completely. The scent promised depth, but the taste delivered little more than warm water. Presentation did all the work, while substance was missing. Decorative dried flowers marketed as a signature touch of elegance arrived brown, crushed, and lifeless. Instead of refinement, customers described them as something forgotten in a drawer for years. These details mattered because the brand wasn't selling everyday items. It was selling an experience, and that experience kept falling apart on contact. Then came a discovery that damaged trust even further. Some of the so-called gourmet edible garnishes were identified by customers as identical to dried flower mixes sold in pet stores for small animals. The same product, available elsewhere for a fraction of the price, appeared to be repackaged and marketed as a luxury food item. That realization changed the conversation completely. At that point, this was no longer about mistakes or early growing pains. It was about whether the brand understood its customers at all. People began asking a simple question: was this lifestyle brand built on craftsmanship or on markup? As complaints increased, returns followed. Many customers didn't even open their products before sending them back. The disappointment was visible before the lid was ever twisted. And still, the brand stayed silent. What began as skepticism was turning into something far more damaging: loss of credibility. And once credibility cracks, even celebrity influence struggles to hold things together. That brings us to the final and most revealing phase of this story: define the collapse. By the time the full picture came into focus, the damage was already done. This wasn't just a case of customers being overly critical or expecting too much. The gap between what was promised and what was delivered was simply too wide to ignore. A brand that spoke endlessly about precision and refinement had allowed basic quality failures to reach paying customers. The most telling detail was not the criticism itself, but how quickly trust evaporated. Returns began piling up, even though the official policy stated that returns were not accepted. Many of the products were sent back unopened. Customers didn't need taste tests or extended use to decide. One look was enough. When a product fails before it's even used, the illusion collapses instantly. Media coverage shifted. What started as glowing headlines about a sold-out launch turned into quiet scrutiny. Analysts began asking uncomfortable questions about sourcing, pricing, and the actual substance behind the branding. Comparisons emerged not from critics, but from buyers who had spent their own money and shared their experiences publicly. That's when the wickless candle became more than just a mistake. It became a symbol. A candle designed to represent warmth, luxury, and atmosphere arrived unable to perform its single basic function. In many ways, it perfectly captured the entire venture: expensive, beautifully packaged, heavily marketed, and ultimately hollow. This wasn't a failure of marketing reach. The visibility was massive. The attention was guaranteed. The problem was simpler and more brutal. The product didn't justify the price, and no amount of reputation or influence could change that reality. In today's market, customers talk. Photos spread. Comparisons happen instantly. Once people realize they're paying for image instead of quality, loyalty disappears fast. The lesson here goes far beyond one brand. Premium pricing demands premium execution. Attention to detail isn't something you claim, it's something customers feel the moment they open the box. When branding races ahead of substance, the market eventually corrects it, and it always does. This story didn't end with a lawsuit or a dramatic shutdown. It ended more quietly with returns, silence, and consumers choosing not to come back. That's often the most final outcome of all. If you've ever felt disappointed by a product that promised luxury but delivered something else, you already understand how this ends. The packaging fades, the marketing disappears, and what remains is the only thing that ever mattered: the product itself.